holiday. So I had a wonderful holiday, except get this, guys. Remember I was going to get my son at the airport? Remember that some of the pictures I showed of how stormy it was? So my son's flight got turned around 11 minutes from the airport and it flew back to Vancouver. And then he would have had to take standby on Christmas Eve to get here. So he just stayed in Vancouver because standby doesn't assure he'll get on either. So it's like my poor kid. Anyway, he's got a sister in Vancouver, but I was very sad to not have him with me. But I had lots of nieces and nephews. So I had a house full of young'uns, like 20s and 30s year olds. And it was lots of fun. I was the oldest one by far. All these young whippersnappers, but obviously I made them do all the cooking. But I really did miss my son. But anyway, first Christmas apart from my 21-year-old. I guess he's a real man now. He spent a Christmas without his mom. I think I was more sad than he was. Anyway, yeah, you mums out there, you're going to know what I'm talking about. He's my youngest, right? He's my baby. Anyway, yeah, he hung out with his sister and her husband, so wasn't so bad. Okay, so today we're going to look at was the Epstein, so we got lots of great questions and a lot of them are about the Epstein file. So was the Epstein redacted info? You know how people were showing, or a fellow in particular on X, and I shared it on all my socials, people were being able to, I forget how they did it, but see what was behind the redacted parts of the Epstein files. Not all of it, not all the redacted stuff was, but they were able to print out a lot of what was behind it. I can't remember how they were doing it, but it was a pretty simple hack. Now, my thoughts are they did that on purpose. Okay, so they put those out. And they were hoping somebody, because they're trying to educate us. So my theory, and the way the cards have been talking for years now, and I got the theory from the card readings, okay? That's where I get my ideas from, is card readings, okay? I do card readings, and then I put together ideas about how the world works. I've been doing it my whole life. Okay, so the card readings have been indicating for years that all of this stuff's all been like a really big, almost like the art of war sort of situation, right? You guys know I've been saying that for years. Possibly that was another, like they want to educate us on how to, first of all, not be gaslit by governments anymore, not be fooled by psyops. So we're learning firsthand by them doing really obvious psyops and then some less obvious ones. We're going back and looking at all of these things that happen in the world and realizing they were psyops, and we're being taught what to look for. Okay, that's a lot of this stuff that's been happening in the world is literally a theater, and it's for our education. And I feel like what happened, and this is just my idea now, the cards didn't say yet, I haven't asked, but was the Epstein redacted hack, so you can hack it and see behind a lot of the redacted stuff. Okay, was that done on purpose by the White Hats? Or was it actually the CIA or whoever redacted it? Their like foolishness. Okay, what was that done on purpose, or yeah, was that an accident? Let's have a look. Well, the World card. Now, my whole deck's upside down, so I'm not going to read that upside down. Oh, and the Devil. Isn't that interesting? The Devil and the World. But the World is first. Oh, yeah. Okay, this was done on purpose. So the Trump team did that on purpose. Trump White Hat Alliance, they did it on purpose, and they were hoping that you'd figure it out. That we did. People figured it out. So Digital Soldiers had that figured out on day pretty much 1. So yes, that's a big old, it was done on purpose, folks. Wow, interesting. Okay. Will Trump be shown to be involved in a negative way? Okay, because there's involvement with Epstein, it might not be negative. Apparently, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago. He kicked him out at some point when he found out what a sleazebag he was. And he did hang out with him before that, but then he kicked him out at some point. So the story goes. Okay, but some people are even coming up with, in particular, there's one story out there that looks like supposedly he was involved in, I think it was a 15-year-old, tells something about he raped a 15-year-old. Somebody's got this supposedly in the files. Okay, so I haven't seen that in print or anything, but there's stories going around anyway. So let's just say, will Trump be shown to be involved in a negative way and be implicated in the files that are now out there? Okay, so that'd be interesting, considering it looks like the White Hats made it easy to hack their redacted parts. Okay, so that would be interesting. But you never know. They're trying to educate us not to put anybody on pedestals. Maybe he's got something to do with them after all. Let's have a look. I keep getting no in the cards, but we got to keep checking, because this is a whole new ball game here with the being able to see beyond the redacted parts. Let's have a look. Is Trump going to be implicated in there in the bad way with these files? Are they going to pin something on him? I mean, because who knows? Like, who knows? Okay, so we've got the Judgment card there, and we've got the Queen of Pentacles. So it looks like there's something in there that's going to be questionable. Okay, it's involving a young female, looks like. Okay, this is the near future outcome of it. Gossip and innuendo. It looks like it's pretty iffy as to whether it's true or not. Okay, so it's like it could be talked about as gossip and innuendo. Maybe they even later proved that the girl was, maybe bought out to say it or something like that. So it feels like something will come up, already is showing up. It's probably that one I mentioned. It gets proven to be gossip and innuendo. And it looks like maybe that person, because these are money cards, could have got paid off to say that. And they've maybe further on, as you read, you'll find out that the person was unreliable, maybe. Okay, because people came forward and maybe they brought unreliable information. So that doesn't look like it sticks on them. So I'll say no to that, but something will come up that needs to be looked into. Even when you hear the story, it looks really, really like, it doesn't sound like a true story. Yeah, it involves this person being pregnant at like 13 or 15 or something, which people can get pregnant at that age. I'm not saying this person didn't or whatever, but the story just sounds a little far-fetched. And then Trump was involved in, unaliving the child that was born subsequent to this birth. Like, why would he stick around and implicate himself in a situation like that? It's like, yeah, okay. It sounds really, fake to me anyway. You guys will probably hear it going around, but it looks like it'll get proven to be not true. Okay, so let's have a look at it. The FB, okay, were the files rigged and or are there false accusations planted by FBI, CIA? Like, are the files manipulated? Okay, because, they had them for years. Okay, so it makes sense. And these guys are scumbags, right? We know the FBI and the CIA have been absolutely working with the deep state for years. Okay, let's have a look. Like, I wouldn't even trust them. And that might be why Trump says they're like, you're wasting your time with the files. Like, that was my first initial reaction when he started saying, okay, it's a witch hunt with these files. Maybe he's saying that because the files at this point have been in the hands of the enemies for so many years, you can't trust them. Maybe that's what he means. Okay, so let's have a look. So were they messed with? Okay, so we've got the 8 and the 3. So it looks like there's a set of them that weren't in the hands of So there's some of them were set aside, so maybe or a copy of the real files that were set aside that look like they're really reliable. Okay, so I think some of them might have been in the past, but I feel like the white hats have got their hands on a copy that's not been involved or hasn't been tampered with, and that copy is whether or not it's out there yet. I don't feel like it fully is. I feel like we're going to see that copy. Okay, so we'll see the real copy and not anything rigged by the CIA or FBI. So with this card in the past, I feel like they might have messed around with it, but I feel like the White Hat Alliance would have got a hold of the real stuff. So yeah, we're going to see the real information. Like, it's just going to take time to all get out here. We're going to see the real information. Okay, so I don't think we're going to see even if they did fake some of it, there was already a copy in the hands of the good guys. So they can't really, they couldn't have really, that's not what we're seeing. Let's say that. We're not going to see the faked ones. We might see some of the faked ones, but the majority of what's going to come out looks like it's going to be the real thing. It was unhampered by those guys. It's almost like they took a copy right at the beginning. Okay, because don't forget that the White Hat Alliance has been out there doing their thing for many, many years, possibly even 20 years. Some people even say 70 years, taking down these guys. And none of that surprises me. Okay, so the photo of the room with the dentist chair in it. So we've all seen it. Okay, and I'm sorry I don't have Coco's on holidays here till January 2nd or something like that. And I don't have the photo to show you. Okay, but there was a photo and it's been floating around X and Telegram. You guys have probably all seen it already, of a room with a dentist chair, I think it was a yellow dentist chair. And then all around the dentist chair, there's these masks and they look like faces. And people have seen, they're like masks of people's faces. And people have said they recognize some of those faces. They could be politicians. They could be prominent people, or who were known as prominent. Now I'd say they're the deletes. But anyway, so who are those people? And are they death masks was further in the question. Okay, so let's first ask, are those of actual humans? Or are they just artistically, because people can create masks artistically of faces, not necessarily literally taken from a person's face. Are they in fact actual people's faces? Yeah, that's our first question. Well, that's a big old yes right off the top there. That's a yes card. Yes, absolutely. And this one further wants to tell us something about some of the people visiting Epstein Island. So this card's a bad guy card, especially not well aspected here. So they're creepy people's masks. The Empress and the Hermit. Interesting. The Empress and the Hermit. Yeah, I did notice there were none of those masks were women's faces. I did notice that they were all guys. So I know a lot of women went to Epstein Island too, don't get me wrong. But it was weird that they were all guys in the mask department. Let me know in the comments if you saw any that were women. The Empress, so something about abundance. And the Hermit. The Empress and the Hermit. I think they fooled these people. I feel like they told them they were doing something, I feel like they fooled them into having their face masked. Okay, so you use plaster. I've made these masks. I've made people's face. I've had a face mask of my own made. And we plastered our face. First, you put Vaseline on it, and then I think it was gauze and some kind of plaster. I can't remember, but you like you dip the gauze into the plaster, then you place it on your face, layers and layers of it, and then you let it dry. Usually you leave, little holes for the nose to breathe and eyes. Okay. And these masks actually look like the eyes were taken out of them, like they went around the eyes or they cut the eyes out later, whatever happened there. It looks like they actually used real humans. So we're getting more information. And I feel like they might have killed them with that card there. So they're people alive, but on their way to being unalived. Now, why would they do that? Okay, so it could have been a ritual, a secret ritual of some kind. Ace of Swords, and I feel like these guys got cloned after that. Yes. So they cloned them after that. So these people maybe were people they could see weren't going to, maybe they stopped cooperating. They maybe were showing signs of, maybe outing with the operations that were going on there, because a lot of really bad things were going on, you guys. It was a big cabal, like gathering place. Okay. And for whatever reason, they didn't tell the people that's what they were doing, but they unalived them after those masks were made. So the person's question was, were they death masks? In a way, but they were alive when they got the mask done, and then they unalived them. Okay. So they're, and I feel like they made them into clones after that. So they secretly put clones out of those people. So maybe they were people they couldn't control anymore. Maybe they were people that weren't cooperating. They thought they'd do better with, it was for political reasons, it looks like. A lot of these were politicians, people in prominent places in businesses, things like that. Okay, so they unalived them after that, and maybe they were just keeping records of who was cloned or maybe it was a ritual to mask their face first, right? These guys are weird, right? They do weird rituals. Okay, so that's interesting. Whoa. Very interesting. Okay, what else we got here? Good questions too, guys. Okay. Was religion created to be a loosh collector for demonic entities? Okay, and that came from somebody watched Mark Atwood's latest that was on X. He's back on X again. He took a couple weeks off, and now we get to see him again on X every couple of days. It's awesome. He does really good. I think he's one of the best truthers out there. He's right up there with us beyond mystic truthers. He's a one cool cat anyway. And he kind of did a whole video on this, so the person likely watched that video. So was religion created to be a loosh collector to feed demonic entities? Yeah, let's have a look. Because, I don't know about you guys, but growing up when I was in catechism, which is what's called sort of like, it's kind of religious teaching for young folks. If you're Catholic, it's called catechism. Okay. And you got to go to it's usually held on Saturdays and sometimes Sunday mornings while everybody's in church. They take the kids off to catechism class when they're little, or sometimes they hold it on a whole different day. Okay. In my case, if I remember correctly, we had to go down in a basement room under the church, and I think it was held on Saturday mornings. But anyway, and I remember just like almost like plugging my ears. I was just not interested in any of the stuff they were telling me. But they basically tell you, it's kind of like Bible stories, but a kid's version of Bible stories. And back in my day, so in the 60s, because I was born in 61, and then early 70s, would have been a lot of guilt tripping was going on. Okay, a lot of guilt tripping, and lots of religions will guilt trip, especially they're young, right? So they're guilt tripping you so you don't sin, basically. They're telling you, it's a sin to have sex before marriage. It's a sin to like all the sins, supposedly, all the things you do bad as a human, like you can't be too greedy, you can't want too much, you can't, so many, right? Just basically have any fun and or just be yourself naturally. Anyway, so guilt tripping is a big part of religion, and it feels to me like it really is, like, in a way, a louche, like a lot of louche is probably created if you buy into that. Okay, so if you buy into that, you're definitely going to feel bad about yourself, because it's a big part of the religious training, for certainly in my days as a Catholic. Okay, feeling bad about yourself. And I know that there's a lot of Christian religions, and I can't speak for other religions, but Christian religions that are really bad, like Pentecostal, where you're a sinner and repenting, and like you're told really bad things about you. Basically come into the world a sinner, and unless you find Jesus in your heart and repent, blah 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 blah, if you die before that happens, you don't even get buried in the regular graveyards. And there's a whole bunch of religions and sects or offshoots, let's call them that, of Christian religions that are even more browbeating than Catholicism. Catholicism's bad, but there's even worse ones, is what I'm saying. Yeah, so none of that stuff makes sense to me. But anyway, let's have a look at, was that all created by design? And in a way, that question, like logically, just what we know and how things work, I'm going to say yes, but I mean, let's see what the cards say. Like if I'm thinking just logically, so yeah, common sense tells me yes, that is true. And we've got 8, 9. I think maybe they weren't created that way, but they saw the benefits of it. They saw so it came into the picture a little later after these religions got started. They might have had other reasons, or let's just say it was one of the reasons, but there's a lot more reasons it was created, not just to be louche collectors, but that was sort of a happy offshoot of it. You bet, happy offshoot of it. And so down the road, they realized, whoa, we got a 2-for-1 here. We can get all of this stuff. We can do child trafficking. Certainly, a lot of organized religion has been involved in child trafficking. We can we can cover up for our pedophiles. So all kinds of pedophiles in organized religion, up at the upper, priests and upwards, bishops, higher up, whatever the hierarchy is called. The worse it gets, it seems, popes. Anyway, so they had all kinds of things they were using organized religion for. Also financially, looks like a really important one, certainly in Catholicism. So the Vatican Bank is probably it funded all the wars, for instance, and it's absolutely a deep state, dark cult entity. It has nothing to do with anything Christianity claims to be about. Okay, so anyway, so all of that, but also louche collecting. That was a happy sideline. Yay, and it gives them louche. So yes, but it wasn't only created for that. So I hope that answers the question. So it's a yes, but it's like so much more than just that. Okay, so there's these, I shared this. Go to the comment section if you haven't already, once you finish watching this video, and watch the Asian guy. So there's this, and that's literally the name of the video, is the Asian guy, they call him. He looks like an AI guy. Okay, and people in this community, so in the truther community, have been warning others that the Asian guy that all of a sudden made the scene on X and Telegram, and he's been all over it for the last 2 or 3 weeks, like almost like every other video is that Asian guy. Okay, so that tells you right there, it's probably an AI bot. Okay, but who's funding it? Who's created it? Because what it seems to be doing, is it seems to be, so here's one theory, and this is the theory I shared on in the community section. Somebody was saying, and I think there were a truther channel saying that in fact the bot was created likely by Sun TZU, whatever that is, Sun style art of war Chinese intelligence. Okay, so it sounds like a 3-letter agency or something like that. Anyway, so an art of war intelligence channel created to disseminate the actual truth about what is going on in Shanghai. So Shanghai is really wreaking supposed havoc with the gold and silver markets, okay, in particular silver. And this could be maybe taking us away from what's really going on basically there, and telling us like it's a lot of truth mixed in with some big lies. This is what they're saying about this AI bot, that it's kind of trying to grab the narrative or lead people astray with the narrative of what's going on with silver. But it does throw in a lot of truth. So it gives you a lot of truth background about silver, but then adds a narrative about what's going on and a slant on it that's very likely misleading. This is what they're claiming about this bot channel. Okay, so what we want to know is that true? Because in real time, banks in the US are going to crash because of silver. Okay, we've been saying it for years. It's happening. We're watching it with our own eyes happen. They can't last through silver at $77 American an ounce. Okay, and they tried to, stop it, but it looks like all of their attempts are not working. So their silver shorting isn't working. And banks are collapsing, and we've even seen a few collapse already. They're going to keep doing it. It's the dollar's going to collapse. Okay. Now, the person who put this out claims to be a truther, or somebody sent it to me, said it was a truther. I don't know that for sure. I didn't recognize the name on the top, although it says SG, but it doesn't look like SG Anon. Okay, so I'll have to go back and have a look at who that is. But anyway, they're saying that it'll be a terrible thing when the dollar collapses. They wouldn't want to be in the US when the dollar. Well, I think it will be terrible for a lot of people. Okay, but I, for one, couldn't care less. I'm looking forward to the banks collapsing, because I feel like I know it'll be hard on lots of people because nobody's listening. I mean, you saw that video where the guy was giving away a chocolate versus 10 ounces of silver. Now, apparently that video is at least a year old. Okay, but even a year ago, you could have had a couple of thousand out of that 10 ounce, or maybe not, but $1,000 maybe, or a few hundred. What? How much would it have been? Anyway, you guys can go do the math on it. But even back then, it was worth a hell of a lot more than a chocolate bar. And what was really funny in that video was they were standing right in front of a coin exchange, and the people didn't seem to have a clue what to do with the silver. What would they do with silver? Okay, coin exchange standing right there. Anyway, hilarious. But yeah, so I'm kind of not agreeing with what this person says. Maybe they're talking from a normie perspective, that if banks collapse, it's going to be horrifying. If you haven't taken care to invest in things like silver, gold, Bitcoin, and some people say, never mind Bitcoin, but I still, whenever I look at Bitcoin, it looks like it'll revive itself and keep being a viable thing to own. But anyway, and some other coins probably too, but I'm not a financial advisor, guys, by the way. But as far as I'm concerned, banks collapsing anyway is a good thing, but this person is saying it's not a good thing. But our question is, back to the question, the Asian guy videos, who's doing them? Is that good guys, bad guys? Is that part of the theater? Is that a bot put out there to, kind of mislead us silver buyers? Like, what's going on? Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? It definitely looks like a bot, though. Like, I would agree that it's a bot. That, I don't think, is the question. The question, yeah, it's a bot for sure. Yes, on bot. Yes, on bot. Okay, that looks like the Alliance. So the Alliance created the bot. Probably they have also the wherewithal to make it have thousands of views and be everywhere at once because they're more advanced technologically. Isn't that interesting? So let's watch it carefully because it looks like, although it might be misleading, there's some kind of education in it, and more look at it as comms and less as misleading and more as comms. Okay, so I feel like it's actually educating a lot of people, and there's comms in there for people paying attention. So I actually think it'll work to our advantage. Okay, so I'm kind of going the opposite direction of the video I shared. Says, basically it's probably it says a Chinese style, basically, what did they call it? Art of war type intelligence channel. Well, I'm going to disagree. It looks like it's owned and operated by the Alliance. So I think it's got comms in it, and it could actually be helpful, maybe with all the information about silver it shares. Okay, so take it with a grain of salt. Carefully watch it for the comms and maybe the education about silver. All right, let's see what else we got. Okay, that's all the questions, but I want to do, since I haven't been on here since the 17th, took a little break there. We all took a break, and it was awesome, except that my son didn't make it all the way to Haida Gwaii, but, yeah. The Haida Gwaii is very hard to get to, especially in the winter. Okay, trying to get here in the winter is, you got like every other flight gets turned around, and every third ferry, like in certain little part, like in the most worst part of the winter, every other or every third ferry doesn't make it or takes way longer to get here. So we run out of groceries on the island. That's why all of us we got canned fish in our cupboards. We've got canned meat, even deer meat. You can can it. We've got all kinds of freezer, deer meat and fish. And then you got to have sacks of rice, sacks of oats, and canned goods. If your freezer goes out, you got to have, I got a couple of little, they're not really generators, but they're like you can plug in 4 or 5 things. So they're like, I guess they're like a generator. They're like a big battery. Okay. And you can actually use sunlight to boot them up or keep them booted up. Okay. But you can also plug them in while you have electricity. Like people here, our electricity goes out sometimes for days in a row. So far, been pretty good. The worst we've had is about an 8-hour electricity outage, but it does happen quite frequently in the bad storms, and people almost never make it on, like when they say they're coming on a plane, it's usually late or not even make it here. So that is what we're dealing with in the winter here. Anyway, I want to do the next few days right up until New Year's Eve. So today is the 27th. Let's do that. So for a lot of you, it's evening already when this gets put up. For me, it is 2:30 in the afternoon, and I'm on Pacific time. So we're going to do from now till, the end of today for myself. So Pacific time, people. Anything exciting happening that we need to hear about? Wow, everybody keep an eye on the financial markets are really the thing to keep your eye on here. It looks like there's so much information on, and when you do look at X, there's a lot of videos of people really educating us a lot on gold, silver, and in general, the financial markets. And I'm learning so much about it, but these two cards look like, so really a lot of information on what's happening and a lot of ways people can strategically still keep themselves safe in the kind of volatile times coming. I always get people will be likely locked out of their accounts or whatever for some time, maybe days, who knows, weeks. Hopefully it's only days. And things will look sketch for a while with your monies. But then I always get better things coming in the future because there's a new system going to come and it'll help everybody, give us a more even playing field. Okay, so I don't call it the RV reset. I don't call it names like that. I just talk about it a different way because it feels like some of those words are being used maybe by sort of cult-like groups. Okay, so I don't go in for using words like that, but I do get there will be a way to even the playing field in the next year, and that Trump and team, so Trump and White Hat Alliance, and he's just a brand being used, by the way, not him himself, really. I think he's maybe in the background pulling some strings, but he's not in charge of the operation. The operation is a military operation, and it's created to help us while taking down the demonics that have been overlording our planet. Okay, so and to help us have a more even playing field. And the deletes, or like once we get all of them out in the open, really obviously being tribunaled and whatever. Okay, in the meantime, in the background, all of this stuff's going on to clean it up. Right. So anyway, this looks like keeping our eye on, even for the rest of today, what's happening in the financial market, so we can keep sort of in our best place and best foot forward, even if it's just mentally, being able to sort of deal with what's coming financially for everybody. And we will need some patience through some kind of turbulent times here coming right up. I'd say January should be pretty turbulent financially. And, if you stay in a good place personally with it, things are going to happen really fast and move really fast. And the good news is we're seeing what all the truthers have been talking about for years. We're actually seeing it happen in real time now. So we're catching up to our news. And that's a good thing, because for years we said, silver was going to go up, blah, blah, blah. Gold was going to go up, blah, blah, blah. Markets were going to come down and crash. And they are doing that. That's what's happening. Okay, so let's look at the 28th. So today is it Saturday? Yep, the 27th. And then let's look at Sunday, the 28th. So December 28th. And by the way, if you're watching this anywhere but, for instance, if you're watching this on Janine Daily, that's a total fraudulent channel, by the way. I do not condone those guys stealing my stuff. They've been stealing it for years. Okay, so I'm not okay with that. So if you're watching it over there, you want to come on over to tarotbyjanine.com. That's my real channel, and that's where they steal it from. And they steal a lot of other people's stuff too. They're just thieves in general. Okay, so get off Janine Daily if that's where you're sitting on watching this. That is not me, has never been me. Okay. Those guys are bootleggers. Let's have a look. Here's our Sunday, the 28th of December, 2026. And you're watching this on tarotbyjanine.com. My real website. Okay, so we've got King of Wands here, and we've got the Two of Pentacles. King of Wands and the Two. Okay, an announcement of some kind that's financial, a big financial announcement. I know Trump's been making noise. I mean, he announced that money he gave to all of the, veterans and their families, vets and their families, was it? Or was it active duty military and their families? Can't remember. Or was it both? Let me know, you guys, in the comments. But he gave $1,776, so $1,776 to all those families if they had somebody, a vet in the family, and or was it a active duty military person? I hope it was both, to be honest. I hope it was both. Okay, so we've got the King of Wands here. There's more sort of, he's going to talk more about some kind of financial, and it's not written in stone how much, but it feels like he's going to talk about another kind of gifting Americans with something else. And he kind of has been hinting around at that $2,000 he hints around at because of how good the tariffs are working. That's what he says anyway, right? What's, really behind it, we're not sure, but that's what he says, because I don't believe the tariffs are exactly what they say they are. I think that it's a code word for something else. Yeah, so he's going to kind of be talking about that. Lots of that in the news. We've got the 10 of Pentacles, so an ending to, and more talk about Fed ending. I think it ended a long time ago. More talk about the UN. So talking about big organizations that are criminal, that this community's known as been criminal for years and years, ending. Okay, so I don't know if it's the Fed or the UN, but he's been talking about both of those ending. Some big organization and a real even we might even get a date of when they're going to finally close down that organization. And to me, it's like I've been hearing a lot about the UN lately, and I know it's already been, to me, what I've been getting is it's already been long. That's long taken over by the white hats, guys. But finally, regular folks get to see in real time where they end that thing. So I don't know if it's that or is it the Fed? I don't know. But a big ending of something, or at least a date on when something's going to close up shop that's been demonic. Okay, so we've got the 6, and so also money stuff. So tracking money stuff and lots of activity financially. Okay, so to keep an eye on. Financial markets, that's going to be big in the news. Let's have a look at, so that's the 20, now let's do the 29th. So that was the 28th on Sunday. Let's go Monday the 29th. Monday the 29th. You know how he's been talking a lot about, this is sort of feels Trumpy again. It feels like it's going to be, I know it's irritating to always hear about what they're up to, but it's like really affecting the whole world, guys, whatever Trump does. And also it's all over world news 24/7 is what if Trump sneezes, usually in the negative way. It's been all over the news. Okay, but we've got justice, and so something around like we've been waiting a really long time because there's so much information about these guys, like all the bad stuff they've been doing, but in particular, he's been talking a lot about Obama. So even saying things like all road leads to Obama, blah, 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 right? So we know what a bad character Obama is and how he, really did a lot of really, really bad and demonic things and was a planted CIA guy and blah, 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 all the stuff everybody knows in this community about who that guy was. Okay. It feels like we get closer to, or even more information about him or somebody that's on the list of who we believe, and we've been thrown around. So there's at least 4 or 5 people we've been thrown around, could be the first arrest. Okay. So like Fauci, Obama, either of the Clintons, and I feel like one of those people, we don't get all the way to literally arresting them, but we get even more information and more declarations about them needing to be arrested. Okay. And it's getting to this crescendo where I wonder if he's trying to get just even everybody yelling about, we'll arrest them already. Because it feels like it doesn't go all the way to an arrest, but it feels like they're going to arrest him. And it's like, why wouldn't they arrest him with all the stuff out there? I almost feel like they're looking for that reaction. So they're looking for people to yell for the arrest of somebody. And it seems to ramp up that day, the 29th. So let's look at the 30th. This is December 30th, 2027, or 2027, 2025. Sorry, guys, we're still in 2025. I'm jumping way up there. Okay, let's have a look. The 30th, so this is Tuesday. Oh boy, okay. So there's some kind of psyop developing. It later turns into, so I don't know if this is later in that day or later in that week, but somebody's death either gets revealed that it was faked and or a fake death occurs. You know, kind of like the Charlie Kirk death, which was obviously faked. And or like there's lots of them, we could point out so many psyops lately. Anyway, but there's some kind of psyop either gets revealed or is revealed that or in fact goes down. So somebody's death occurs. I wonder if that could be Candace Owens. Like there's a lot of threats on Candace Owens. Let me know what you guys think, who we're getting here. But it doesn't really say, is it somebody who we thought was dead and we find out they're alive? Or is it somebody it looks in public like they're dead, but in fact, it's another psyop. So it's one of those two things. It's not hammering it down here. Let me see if I can get. Yeah, it feels more like, well, it's a guy, but the original Candace Owens, in my humble opinion, was born a male. Like, I'm sorry, but talking the original Candace Owens, they've been using an actor for Candace Owens for quite some time, guys, as far as I'm concerned. And I think the original Candace Owens was a guy who was inverted at birth and probably brought up in one of those families, those occult families. Anyway, yeah, so that still could be Candace because this is a dark-skinned, dark and swarthy male and not that old. Okay, Candace Owens is technically not that old. Not as old as me, that's for sure, right? So, and then we got the devil here, a deep stater. I wonder if it's like they fake Candace Owens' death here, or somebody, or an attempt at her life. Anyway, some kind of drama that looks like it's actually faked. And it either shows us that somebody we thought was dead is actually still alive, or in fact takes somebody out in the public eye who's actually, probably was taken out a long time ago. Confusing times. So this will be the last one I do. I'm doing the 31st. So this is New Year's Eve. Let's have a look. And I'll be back on Monday doing another one of these world newses. Okay, guys? Okay, so let's have a look. This is the 31st, which is Wednesday. What we call New Year's Eve, until otherwise we change it. Right now it's what we call New Year's Eve. Okay, so more Trump news, some kind of big Trump thing here, where again, it looks like financial news coming from Trump, maybe makes a big announcement, turns into it's not as big as they said it would be. Yeah, he's talking a lot about finances here. So he might get on once again on a big public format and do what he always does, which is talk a lot of comms, go over everything he's been doing and talk about all the money they're making and what they're going to do with it. Looks like he does that again. But watch for comms in it. Watch for comms in it. Yeah, this feels like a New Year's Eve address of some kind. but there's really good info hidden inside what he says, is what I'm getting. Really good financial info for down the road. Wow. Okay. All right, folks. I'm going to, on that note, say Happy New Year to y'all. I guess I will be seeing you on Monday again, though. I'll be doing another one on Monday, and then even on Wednesday, I'll do another one. So I'll get right back to the two a week, like usual. Okay, and thanks so much, everybody, for watching my video. And don't forget, come on over to tarotbyjanine.com if you're not over there right now watching this. And thank you, everybody who's already over here supporting my channel. Bye-bye. That is very interesting. The sun, but it's not well aspected. The sun can be about children. Okay, so weird that would come up, because for a really long time I've gotten that really, in order for things to really move and arrests to happen, they have to out the trafficking, adrenochrome making, horrific situation around human trafficking, in particular children, and the pedophilia around elites pedophilia, their little bad habit there with adrenochrome and being all pedophiles and everything. Okay, so we've got the sun and the death card. So I feel like before there's arrests around that, there has to be some closure and or huge exposure around what's been going on with the kids, and then arrests around that. So that feels like that has to come first. Okay, so it looks like they're just layering things on. Okay, and then comes the situation around the towers. So I don't think it'll directly lead to that. First comes the outing of what's been happening with the children, adrenochrome making, elite pedophilia, et cetera, et cetera. That still feels like that wants to come first, but it feels like they're just layering things up or getting things ready. So they're like, this is what they've been doing, layering things on, and then one by one, I feel like they'll expose them. Arrests will happen for those things. So I don't think the Twin Towers comes before. You won't see arrests around this or fingers pointed directly until the situation with children gets outed. Wow. Fascinating. All right. So I want to shout out something Meg and I are cooking up here. Opening Psychic Senses, level 2. So we're going for level 2 on this one. You can save 10%. I believe this comes out May 4th. It's a live and it comes out May 4th, but you can sign up here with a 10% off. Also, Ellen is doing a big launch here. We're going to help her out tonight on the 8 o'clock news show. We're going to help Ellen launch her new sign of soaps, or her new line. And they're incredible. I've got a couple of these, and the scents. Anyway, there's lots of information you just need to read up on what she's making these soaps out of. It's absolutely amazing. And 10% off here as well. Awesome. Okay. So my second thing I wanted to look at today is a little more of a big overview, because we've got Easter weekend coming up. Okay, so Easter weekend, and that involves the April 20th date, which a lot of people are talking about, a lot of truthers. People are expecting all kinds of things, as they always do, on this weekend, right? It's a huge the dates are huge. There's all kinds of interesting things predicted here, not just astrologically, but in fact, out there in truther world, people are saying all kinds of things, going all different directions about it. Let's have a look at what we can expect. So I'm reading for this audience what the universe thinks you need to hear going into your Easter weekend. All right. Let's have a look. Magician. Well, we've been definitely tolerating a whole lot of theater lately. Politics is almost all theater. So when people ask me about this politician or that, it's really hard to get excited about talking about them, because every time I look at them in the cards, it's literally theater what's going on in politics. It's all to out what that deep state had planned for humanity. So I don't get too excited about little details of what's going on politically. It's even annoying, to be honest, to even look at it, because it never looks true. Nothing that you think is going on, nothing to do with the tariffs, is real. Okay, I mean, it's real, but it's nothing like what it's presented as. So tariff, I believe, the word, is actually a code word for something else. And a big part of it is taking down the Fed, taking down the financial system the way it stands, the gangster bankers. It's taking down that whole system that's been enslaving us. That's really what Trump's doing with those tariffs, by the way. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, and you guys all have done your research and probably know that already. But it is funny to listen to people talk about it, like who don't know or aren't in the know, don't watch videos like this, right? They're all talking about it. I live in Canada. I live in British Columbia. And, you'll go to a coffee shop in Vancouver or whatever, and everybody's all scared of Trump and talking about the tariffs. It's like, you guys are so off, in la la land. Like, they have no clue. They don't even know we're in a huge spiritual war. It's just fascinating to me that some people literally just have no clue. But anyway, so here's how the weekend goes according to the cards. So the Magician is the theater we've been watching. Yeah, we've been tolerating that. It's just getting so old. I'm done with it. Now, at first it was entertaining. Now I'm just done with it. Now we've got the Queen of Pentacles here. So that's interesting. We should see some financial, like she's abundant and on her way to calling to her what abundance she deserves or feels worthy of. Okay. So it's interesting that card's there. So we should see, because that's in the now, something making us all more abundant, or this community might be bringing abundance into this community. And abundance, of course, could mean a lot of things. Information can give you abundance in a way, because it's abundance of knowledge, but this feels more physical. So I'm almost thinking this is the continuation of the upward trend with gold and silver. I'm thinking, because I know a lot of people in the community are collecting gold and silver. And I feel like possibly that's part of what this is talking about. Also, all of the information coming out feels abundant to me. It feels abundant to me when even on The View, they start talking about, so who was it? Whoopi Goldberg, who's obviously a clone, and or they're using her brand, or she's walking the walk of shame, but she actually was commending Trump on his policies towards taking down the education system. Okay, so there's a bunch of things moving in the direction of mainstream media is finally going to do that flip I've been talking about. Okay, I know they've done little bits of it, but it's starting to show up more and more. Okay, we saw that Canadian fellow what's his first name? Forget that guy's first name. I think he's a comedian, or he's a late night host. Anyway, he went for dinner with Trump and actually had really good things to say about Trump, and basically outed that the mainstream media's presentation of Trump is completely the opposite of the guy he met. Okay, so that was interesting. Bill Maher. That was it. Yeah, so crazy things are happening in mainstream around outing everything we've known about for a really long time. So keep watching for that. That could also be what that means. Okay, now this card here is interesting. So we've got the Three of Pentacles. So sort of a continued building of narratives. Okay, so when they start really focusing, like right now, it feels like we got lots of outings around alien stuff. That's going hot and cold, but in the last week or two, that's been really hot. Huge outing about what really it goes on in the skies when they tell us it's just steam out of airplanes, but really they're pumping poison all over or changing our weather. So there's that's being outed nonstop. Like I feel like this, as the weekend goes on, more and more things like get piled onto where they're outing all of these things, all of these deep state narratives. We've got, and the reason I'm saying the outing of deep state narratives continues throughout the weekend is the hidden influences, the ace. So the ace is information. Okay, so if this card was maybe the fire card, I'd say it came in natural responses to things or natural events, but because it's actually the Ace of Swords, it's more informational. So we should see some really big drops this weekend, and watch for more like television hosts that are usually really far left, kind of doing some flips or moving over towards maybe even shouting out Trump in a positive way or something. Watch for that. And that could be not just like that Bill Maher guy, he's from Canada. Okay, so this could be all over the world. It may not just be in the US you're seeing that. Okay, so that's interesting. Now let's have a look at this. Here's two things to keep in mind. So there's two things to keep in mind. We've got the three. So there's going to be what we're going to need to get prepared for when it really becomes, and I've been saying this for a long time. So it's going to be really fun when this absolutely becomes truth. Okay, we've got the Three of Cups of the party substance, and it's badly aspected, and it's surrounded by this two sword cards. So it's like information that's really hurtful about what party substance is. In other words, adrenochrome, and or how they collect it, who uses it. Yeah, so it feels like the bad party habits of elites gets outed. So that feels like some of the narrative's going to be outing that. Or developing more towards that, just like they're developing, really outing the 9/11 narratives. Okay, so doesn't mean it all comes out and everybody believes it yet, but they seem to be layering up on things, and I feel like some information really comes out in everybody's face around that. And honestly, that's something I've been waiting for a long time, and I absolutely can't wait to see that, because it's really the children we need to get that dealt with. You know, we need to see arrests around what's been going on with these kids. Okay, so now we've got the Knight of Wands. So the near future outcomes, the Knight of Wands. So that's interesting. It almost feels like this is a big, we've got the War card here. So war coming out in the open, and a really big, the World card. The overview cards are the war comes more out in the open, and this is, it takes it to a brand new level. The world is taking something to a new level. So the war, I feel like the war comes more out in the open, especially if people hear very specifically about adrenochrome, and that it is actually a real thing, and that actually children are tortured and killed for it on the regular, and it's been going on for a long time. There's even evidence that they've been taking this substance. Not only do elites on the earth plane use it, but they collect the substance for off-worlder, like sort of, reptilian and maybe even other dimensional beings, okay, that governments are beholden to. Okay, this is what's been happening maybe for thousands of years here on the earth plane. Just unbelievable. When you find out this stuff, it's just unbelievable, heart breaking, really. Okay, so it looks like possibly by the end of the weekend, or the end of the weekend in this case, because it's a long weekend, so Monday, by the end of Monday, we could even see some military out because of something that came out, and or the need to send in white hat military, or even somebody could even see them out and out fighting. And a few things Cliff Hyde put out recently, it looks like you were seeing that over Vancouver, where it looked like white hat fighting. He calls it the sock fighting, some alien and or otherworldly, other dimensional activity over the skies of Vancouver, Canada. So go have a look at his latest 2 Substacks. But anyway, wow. Okay, so I don't think it's an uneventful weekend. There seems to be a lot of information drops to watch for. Okay, and possibly even something so dramatic that it could cause a lot of people to, first of all, heartbroken. So a lot of heartbreaking information. So I'm really hoping that's the adrenochrome, because that really needs to come out more in the public, and what happens to the children, and possibly even the need for, in some areas, white hat military to calm people down somehow. So I guess we'll be watching for that and see what happens there. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching my video. Okay, that's about clarity and moving out of troubled water. So getting verbal clarity on something. And the Wheel of Fortune. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think she's on to something. And here, this is interesting because this card says it's almost like the universe kept it from us. Maybe we weren't ready to hear. Maybe I wasn't ready to see it in the cards, like, because that almost jaw drops me. That's an outrageous amount. Okay. And I literally remembered thinking, I wonder if some of my family is, as much as I love them, but literally just not even remotely getting me or anything, spiritual or what I think about. As much as you love them, you're like, how can they not, get this stuff? Okay. So see the devil in the middle. Okay. So this is how others see it. And 2 major arcanas in this row with a really positive clarity. I feel like they're honey's onto something. Okay. And now it's maybe adjusting it a little. So, not to talk about apples and pears or apples and oranges or whatever, but maybe going more like 70%. So if you want to whittle it down, and it could even be that we're moving to a lesser amount. Okay, but I'm thinking honey is very close to she's really on to, there's a whole lot, way more than we thought. So very few people here. That's a small percentage of the humans are actually natural humans, and or I guess people that are sort of involved, like, because we're participant players. Okay, so it doesn't mean NPCs, doesn't mean you're not a human. You are a human, but you may not be as involved in sort of the theater that's going on and sort of creating the world the way you do, right? You're just not involved in making the changes that we talk about in this community. And that's maybe why they don't get so up in arms about stuff, and they're okay with things that just aren't okay. Okay, so that is, that blows my mind. So now the second part of things she was talking about, and again, she was talking about way more than this, but I just chose these 2 things because I just thought it was interesting. The idea that hybrids among us, there's a lot of those, and basically the rest of the population are hybrids. Okay, I believe that's what she was saying in there. I'd have to watch the video again, but she was nodding to there's a whole lot of hybrids, and that maybe everybody who's what we think are natural humans are actually hybrids. And my question is, are we, in fact, this community watching, are we the hybrids? Because maybe because of that hybrid, that gives us that consciousness to understand what the heck's going on, that gives us the rebel gene. Maybe that's what gives us the rebel gene. And I got more stories about hybrid kind of stuff in my second part of this. Okay. Yeah, but let's start here. Let's start with this viewing audience. What percentage are all of us hybrids? Are a large amount of us hybrids? Or a small amount of us hybrids? Okay, and I've don't forget I've gotten that Trump was a hybrid actually created for the spotty's role he's playing. Melania as well, very likely Barron Trump. I don't know if I've literally looked. I think I did though. I did the whole Trump family, and nothing's as it seems. Like there's a whole lot of hybrids out there. Okay, in people in this big theater we're all watching. Okay, good ones and bad ones, by the way. Okay, so let's have a look. How many of us viewing here? What percentage are what we call hybrids, which is where you've got some other dimensional or worldly blood in you. You're like, seeded here from, the galaxies. And, a long time ago, we did get a lot. We did get a lot of us were seeded. Okay, so this is interesting because this is about breaking illusions and ending illusions. Ending illusions and the Three of Swords. And that card says that is like a hybrid card. Okay, that's like defending your uniqueness. Okay, but there is definitely a hybrid energy to that card. You bet. I was trained on the Thoth deck, Aleister Crowley's Thoth deck. And yes, it can be tricky because Crowley, was absolutely deep state. But the woman that painted those cards was really, really, really evolved in the positive. And I feel like the balance makes them so we have the absolute light and the absolute dark creating a deck together. So it's a powerful deck, but you absolutely need to really be grounded and be for the good to use them properly. And of course, a lot of the bad side uses that same deck. So, but, tarot readers, if they're doing their work well, we need to use the tools that the bad guys use, okay, in a good way, change the energy of it, because you can use tools good or bad. You can use them for good or bad, right? And a good reader is going to flip that on the deep state. And we're using how they work against us to help us get out of this mess. And also to understand what's going on in the background, because they've been using these tools against us. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw in that philosophy of mine in case you're new to tarot and, esoteric sort of understandings of things. Okay, so let's keep looking. So it looks like we weren't ready to hear about this. I feel like it's a yes on this. I feel like it's a yes. I think we got a yes. A lot of people aren't going to be ready to hear it, is what the cards are saying, but we got a yes on all of us watching. I'd say, unless you're literally an NPC out there and you just happened on the channel, you're thinking we're crazy. Okay, you're likely a hybrid. So yes, truth and integrity to that. And it's like that's been kept from us for a really long time. I feel like we weren't ready to hear this. And I do have a little story about that, but I'll tell you that after this little commercial break here. Right on. So DNA cleaning or cleansing and upgrade meditation with Jens. So 10% off code on this, DNA 10 is your code. And this is from the Beyond Mystic Academy. Yeah, this is from the Academy, and you want to be checking that out. Yeah, if you've never meditated and you want to really learn how, Jens is the guy to learn with. Yeah, he really takes you through it in a way that's really understandable. And even if you've been meditating for years, you're going to get a lot out of it. Either way, it's like for all levels of meditators here. And you're actually getting work done on you at the same time you're meditating yourself. So pretty cool deal there. All right, so let's look at the next part of my question. So moving on so it looks like we're all hybrids, basically, generally speaking, and there's a whole lot of NPCs out there. Okay, like I'd say she's hitting the mark on. It was looking like about 70%, but man, like that's a lot. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about now. First, I'll tell there's a few stories I want to tell. When I was a child, and I know lots of people tell stories like this, and lots of people write me stories about this, but I had an interesting experience with what looked like a panther. Okay, so there was some years, and I think it was about 3 years, my family reminded me that this happened, and I had memories about it as well, but I was really young, and I would go to bed every night in a room, and I had this tall boy dresser, and a panther, what appeared to be a panther, and it was literally the color of the pink in here, so like a light flesh tone pink. Okay, so the panther was that color, like a pink panther, okay, but not a bright pink. It was flesh tone pink. And this panther would stand, it was very muscular looking, and it would stand up on 2 legs and put its paws up on this tall boy. You know what a tall boy dresser is, right? So it'd be about that tall, but look over the dresser at me in the room, okay? And I would wake up screaming. Or I'd feel paralyzed. I remember that. But this thing would visit me, and it came and went for at least 3 years. It felt like I was having this visitation, and I would explain and try to tell people. And it was like my parents would tell me I was, obviously having nightmares, like they were just beside themselves. And then all of a sudden it stopped visiting. Okay. And I hear lots of stories about these kind of visitations by creatures. Some kids talk about invisible friends that they have, and maybe some of that's hybrid energy. And the reason I'm calling the panther possibly connected to alien or otherworldly is because I was on a show with James Gilead. I hope I said his name right. I was on a show with him. He invited me on his show. I only went on the one time. Super interesting fella. So he owns that ranch that a lot of people go to. It's in the Southwest in the United States, and they see aliens. So his ranch is like a huge vortex for otherworldly, other dimensional, whatever you want to call it, activities. Okay. And people go and they film it. And this guy's like, if he knows a lot about otherworldly creatures. Okay. So I was on his show and I told him that story. For some reason that came up, but I wasn't thinking that creature was an alien life form. I just told him the story, and I don't even know why. It was probably my intuition, like, tell this guy this story. Okay, so I told him the story, and he stops me just as I'm finishing up the story, and he says, there's a whole group of aliens that look like panthers, okay? They're built like large cats. People think of them as a panther-like, and they're flesh tone colored, and they stand on 2 legs, sometimes on all 4s and sometimes on 2 legs. And he goes, you were being visited by possibly you're part of their family kind of thing. So I had a jaw drop moment where I was like, what? Like, no way. Like in no universe did I ever think that, right? And I've had some saucer experiences and experiences with craft, and I've told those stories as well. So interesting. I feel like a lot of us have had experiences we otherwise categorize over here, but maybe we're even being visited, because it sounds like we're all hybrids, by our relatives from somewhere else, right? And then, of course, you guys remember that story of when all the planets lined up in Taurus. This was around 2012. I don't remember exactly the year. And it was summertime, 2012, I think it was. And all of a sudden, everything was, all these big outer planets were lined up, in some of the closer ones in Taurus. And it would have been in May, because I think the sun was also in Taurus. The sun, the moon, like, and a bunch of outer planets. Something like 7 planets lined up in Taurus this one day. And there was one day that it was going to be a really intense aspect. And I remember thinking, because I have a lot of astrologer friends and they were all excited about it. And I remember thinking, I wonder what I'm going to feel that day. So I went out that day with a lot of awareness and ready to kind of notice. I was on high alert to notice, okay, is anything going to be different? Am I going to feel different? What's going to happen? So I'm in Vancouver at the time. I got on a transit in Vancouver. You know, if anybody's been on transit around the Drive area and Broadway and Main type areas and like that, it's really busy. Well, I think all transit's really busy in Vancouver. And I squished on, it was a really busy bus. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, like a little ways into my drive, my ride, all of a sudden, everyone was a small alien type figure. People weren't themselves anymore, and they all looked identical. In fact, like this creature you're seeing here with the big eyes, and they were the shorter, like short grays. So they were more of a white gray color, but leaning more towards a gray white. And their heart chakras, and that's everybody on the bus turned into that. They just became that. It was wild. And they were short grays. They all looked identical, which is totally weird. I started going, what's going on? What am I being told here? And their heart chakras were leading them. Okay. So it was like you would feel their love heart energy, and all of them, no matter who they were in actual real life, their soul essence was seen by, I was seeing it. And I was the only one on the bus. This was in my perception. And by the way, I wasn't on mushrooms, and I wasn't doing any kind of hallucinogenics of any kind. Okay. So I wasn't doing that. You can't blame it on that. Broad daylight, by the way. Okay. So I started crying, just bawling, like joy cry. And the reason I was doing that was because everyone was so loving. The bus driver would stop. He was an alien too. Would stop and open the door, and someone would come on, but it was like their heart was leading them on, and I would feel the love, and they would come down the aisle towards where I was sitting, and it was overwhelming love energy, and I've never felt anything like it before or since or whatever. Okay, so I started just bawling and couldn't stop, and everyone was looking at me, even though they looked like aliens, but I was getting stared at. And my ego kicked in and went, okay, Janine, get your ass off this bus. They're going to take you out of here in, a straight jacket, so you better get off of this bus. I just all of a sudden had an awareness that, okay, this is socially not working for me, and I'm going to get either kicked off the bus, or they're going to call somebody and take me away. Okay, so I got off on the next stop, stumbled out of that bus full of aliens, and got myself home, and it kind of locked the door and stayed in my apartment the rest of the day. I was like not going anywhere. And then things settled down, and it didn't happen again. But all of these things lead me to believe, okay, that first of all, because we're hybrids, maybe we're getting visited, okay, by our relatives. And remember that experience I had again on Commercial Drive in Vancouver, where that alien energy came and put its finger on my window. Do you guys remember that story? If you've been listening to me, you heard that story too. Okay, so I've had these experiences. Maybe they're relatives coming on over to visit us. So what I'm going to ask is, what's the percentage of people out there watching this video who've actually had these experiences? Maybe they don't even realize they have. What do we got going on here? And actually part of the question is, yeah, that size. See this picture here? They all look like that. Heads big, really big eyes, bigger heads too big for the body, really. And they were like short grays. Okay, but weird. They were incredibly loving, so they had to be the good kind. So I'm still trying to piece together what it meant that I would see everybody like that. It was totally wild. But anyway, so now I'm going to ask, is it common that we've been visited by these relatives? Do they visit us? What percentage, and what does the universe want to tell us about that? And do in the comments tell us if you've had some experiences, anything like what I'm talking about, or, give us some details, because I find this stuff fascinating. Okay, let's have a look. So we've got the 10, but we've got a major arcana in the first 2. So usually the first 3 cards, if you got a major arcana, you've got a yes. So yeah, now we've got 2 major arcanas. So it's absolutely a thing. Okay, now this is interesting. I feel like psychologically we'll cover up for it and or turn it into something else. Or psychologically our parents will tell us we were just dreaming or having a nightmare, or you know what I mean? So we get talked out of it a lot. Okay. And it's also a lot for us. Like this card says, it's a little overwhelming. So a lot of people put it out of their mind. So if they were really young, it might have traumatized them. Like it literally traumatized me. I wished I'd had some awareness then, but I was only 3 and 4 and like that. Okay. But so I had no way of understanding I'm being visited maybe by family members or someone kind of connected to me somehow. Okay. Some kind of energy connection there. But it'll overwhelm people, and especially children. So I feel like, yeah. And they do seem to come, almost to be nurturing here. Okay, so that's a nurturing card. So I feel like these would be the good kind, obviously. There's big yeses. And I also get that not only is it really a frequent occurrence, so it's likely almost everybody watching might have had an experience like this. So start opening up to it. I feel like your memory might block it with that card there, because it might have been traumatizing or weird, right? Like I had forgotten all about that bus journey until a few years ago. When I got on the truther stage here, I started thinking about all of these weird things. Okay, so everybody have a little walk down your memory lane, start thinking about these things, because I feel like there's probably a lot of us have had experiences that are really with off-worlders that, and we're part of that world. And we might even go spend time there when we're sleeping. Like, who knows? Like, it opens so much up to us. And we really do need to figure these things out going forward, because all of this, I believe, is going to really be important in our new way of being here. Okay, so wow. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching my video. I really appreciate you guys going through this this stuff with me. These are wild times. And I want to send everybody ravens while we're going through it. And do tell your stories. I really want to hear them. I do read the comments. Trust me, I read them. Okay, thank you so much. And again, if you like my work, tarotbyjanine.com.
Lúc này là thời chiến. Tại vì dân đông còn chưa diệt sạch, chỗ dựa của quân Minh khá là vững chắc. Vị tham tướng lãnh binh chính là Kiều Tứ Hải, y đau lòng cho quan tướng của mình. Quan viên Sơn Đông Tam Ti không dám quản, y liền cáo trạng lên kinh. Phần theo đó sẽ đem chuyện Khổng lão thái gia chiếm phi phát hơn 10 vạn mẫu đất nhà quản gia họ biết, báo lên trên không sót chút nào. Dừng là nghe rõ chân tướng, cẩn thận suy nghĩ một hồi, mơ hồ đã có một chủ ý hay để xử lý. Hắn cười mà như không nói: Ta biết rồi. Chuyện này dù sao cũng phải để các tướng sĩ đang đổ máu đánh trận dùng ác khí đó ra mới được. Về phần đất đai chiếm cứ không mộc pháp cũng phải khiến cho y nhả ra. Chuyện này ta sẽ bắt đầu ngay bây giờ, không thể để cho y trở thành chướng ngại vật cho công cuộc cải chế cách tân của ta. Tiêu Các lão một tiếng lại nhỏ giọng nói: Cô công gia, môn hạ có thể nghĩ đến còn có một người không chắc ngài có gan đủ lớn để lôi người đó ra. Dương Ngân cười ha ha lạnh nhạt nói đi, là con hổ lớn nào? Tiêu Các lão lắc đầu nói: Vì này không phải là hổ mà là rồng, một con rồng thật sự. Hả? Dương Ngân trố mắt ra nói: Đương kim hoàng thượng có cái thóc nào? Tiêu Các lão kề tay hắn, nhỏ giọng thủ thỉ: Dương Lăng từ chỗ của Tiêu Phương trở về phủ, vào gian phòng của ông nương. Hải tử chơi mệt hiện đang nằm ngủ, lộ ra đôi chân trần nhỏ bé mụn miễn tựa như hai cái ngón sen. Trên bụng đắp một tấm chân mỏng, khuôn mặt đỏ hồng hây hây, chóp mũi đẫm tấm mồ hôi. Hai người ngồi ở trên giường thì thầm hồi lâu. Hàn Ống Nương nghe xong câu chuyện của Dương Lăng thì lo lắng nói: tướng công, đó là tấm gương của vạn thế, hậu duệ của Khổng Thánh không thể kinh động được. Tên hạ này chỗ nào mà chẳng có người đặt sách làm quan, đến lúc đó đắc tội với ai còn không biết chừng. Dương Lăng cười nói: nàng yên tâm đi, ta sẽ không hành động theo cảm tính đâu. Chuyện xảy ra với y đến thật là đúng lúc, ta muốn bố trí một chút, lợi dụng sức ảnh hưởng của Khổng gia nhà y để thổi thêm sức gió vào con thuyền cải cách, cũng coi như là giúp y lấy công chuộc tội vậy. Ta sẽ không làm to chuyện của y ra đâu. Tuy nói quyền của y to cỡ nào cũng không thể bằng quyền lực của vua. Có điều chiếm đất của dân, y lớn hiếp nhỏ là chuyện xảy ra nhan nhản, cũng không thể coi đó là chuyện to tát gì. Nếu thực sự đem y ra thử đao, quả thật có chuyện bé xảy ra to, lại khiến y cảm thấy ta có ý đối phó với y. Muốn thử đao, ta cũng sẽ không chọn biến kịp có chặt như vậy. Trái người làm việc xấu không nên quá canh nghiệt, phải xem họ có thể tiếp thu đến đâu. Khuyên người làm việc thiện không nên quá kỳ vọng, ta phải xem họ có thể làm được đến đâu. Tướng công đây hiểu đạo lý này chứ? Không phải xem tướng công giống như là tiểu tử chưa giáo máu đầu, không hiểu sự đời đấy chứ? Hà Đô Nương liếc mắt nhìn hắn một cái, cười như không cười nói: tướng công rất hiểu sự đời sao? Vậy chuyện gì lại khiến cho cô nương Hà Đức Nhi phải buồn như vậy chứ? Dương Lăng ngẩn ra hỏi ngược lại: sao lại nói như vậy, nàng ấy không vui chứ? Ấu Nương khẽ cười nói: thiếp thấy nàng ấy giàu dĩ không vui, suốt cả buổi chiều chỉ ở hậu hoa viên, nhìn thấy thiếp cũng chỉ miễn cưỡng cười giả bộ vui vẻ. Chuyện này nha, bọn thiếp khuyên không được, ngoài trừ chàng ra, nghĩ tới nghĩ lui thì cũng không tìm được nguyên nhân thứ hai. Ôi, quê nhà của người ta xa ngoài vạn dặm, vậy mà vẫn toàn tâm toàn ý đi theo chàng, chúng ta cũng không thể để người ta phải chịu ủy khuất, chàng thấy có đúng không? Dương Lăng cười khổ nói: nàng đó nha, lúc nào cũng chỉ biết cảm thông người khác, tướng công của nàng là người như vậy sao? Thôi được rồi, ta đi xem nàng ấy có tâm sự gì. Ấu Nương một tiếng ôn nhu khoác lưng người hắn, chiếc áo choàng nhẹ. Dương Lăng thản nhiên đi về hướng hậu viên. Nơi này bởi vì tăng cường xây dựng phòng ốc cho nên lại mở rộng thêm một mảnh lớn. Chỗ luyện võ của Ấu Nương được chuyển đến bên trên Noãn Diếu. Còn mảnh đất bên cạnh Quả Lâm thì vẫn đang trồng rau xanh, còn có mấy lúa ngô, khoai lang, khoai tây, cà chua, và gần đây là có thêm cây lạc, là cây được du nhập vào trung thổ sau khi đường đi Nam Dương được khai thông. Đức Nhi đang ngồi trên một tảng đá bên cạnh luống cà chua, trong tay cầm một cây gỗ gõ một cách bâng quơ xuống mặt đất, vẻ mặt cô đơn si ngốc xuất thần. Dương Lăng đón ra đón rén đi đến bên cạnh nàng. Đức Nhi cả kinh, bờ vai giật nhẹ một cái, nhìn thấy là hắn vừa muốn đứng lên, Dương Lăng đã đặt tay lên bờ vai của nàng, mỉm cười ấn nàng ngồi xuống, dịu dàng nói: làm sao vậy, có tâm sự gì ư? Đức Nhi lắc đầu nói: không có. Dương Lăng vẫn chăm chú nhìn nàng, ánh mắt của Đức Nhi dần dần hoảng loạn lên. Rốt cuộc nàng hơi nghiêng đầu, than nhẹ một tiếng nói: muội phát hiện ra những hiểu biết của muội lại không có đất dùng võ ở Đại Ninh, ngoài trừ chế tạo vũ khí giết người, muội không hiểu về Đại Ninh. Rất nhiều sự việc cũng chỉ đành cho là đương nhiên phải vậy. Những điều muội tưởng là đúng thì đôi khi lại trở thành hành vi rất buồn cười. Dương Lăng hơi ngẩn ra, lập tức tỉnh ngộ. Hẳn là thiếu nữ thiên tài xinh đẹp người Tây Ban Nha này từ nhỏ đã là người cao ngạo, được mọi người tán tục. Hơn nữa, sự cao ngạo của nàng không phải đến từ dung mạo mà là tài học của nàng. Tri thức mà nàng thông hiểu không chỉ vẻn vẹn giới hạn ở lĩnh vực vũ khí, nhưng người tài là ở Đại Ninh. Một khi rời khỏi chiến trường, rời khỏi lĩnh vực chế tạo vũ khí sở trường của nàng, những ý tưởng hết sức tinh vi và phức tạp đều bị phủ định một cách dễ dàng, khiến cho lòng tự trọng của nàng bị tổn thương đến mức chịu không nổi nữa rồi. Dương Lăng cười rộ lên. Vóc dáng của người phương Tây trưởng thành sớm, hơn nữa nàng nhiều lần trải qua biến cố, tính cách lại càng kiên cường độc lập. Bản thân mình đã quên mất nàng vẫn còn là một tiểu cô nương, trên phương diện tâm lý vẫn còn rất yếu đuối. Không nghĩ tới nàng bởi vì một phen tranh luận thất bại với thành cởi vận, bản thân hắn lại vừa gặp vài vị trọng thần của triều đình, đối với nàng có chút sao nhãng, khiến cho nàng sinh ra cảm giác mất mát. Nhà đầu ngốc, ai nói muội vô dụng? Chỉ có muội mới có ý nghĩ kỳ quái như vậy. Nếu như Đại Minh chúng ta còn tin tưởng mù quáng rằng nữ tử mà vô tài thì hẳn là đức độ nữa đâu. Dương Lăng vô cùng thân thiết ôm lấy nàng vào trong lồng ngực cười phá lên. Đừng Nhi nhíu mày rất chân thành nói: muội nói thật mà, nữ công muội không biết, làng biết muội không thảm, trốn quan trường muội cũng không giúp được huynh. Đợi đến khi gả cho huynh, chẳng lẽ lại chuyên môn phụ trách chế tạo súng đạn cho Dương gia? Trên phương diện là một nữ nhân, muội quả thực là vô dụng. Ai nói muội vô dụng? Vậy hữu dụng chỗ nào? Không tạo ra súng đạn thì muội vẫn có thể tạo ra người mà. Trước tiên xin cho Dương gia một thành như ngoại quốc đã. Đừng Nhi rút người, trong khoảnh khắc rồi mới có phản ứng. Hai dáng môi hồng lập tức ửng lên trên đôi má của nàng. Nàng ngượng ngùng đánh Dương Lăng hai cái, sau đó áp sát vào trong lồng ngực của hắn vui quẩn nói: Dương, không nên gạt muội, huynh thực sự yêu thích muội sao? Sau khi vậy, chúng ta đã như vậy rồi, nếu không thích muội, sao huynh lại làm như thế với muội? Hai má của Đức Nhi nóng bỏng rúc vào lồng ngực của hắn gắt giọng: vậy thì chưa chắc, nam nhân các ngươi phong lưu chơi bời quen rồi. Muội vốn cũng nghĩ rằng huynh nhất định sẽ yêu thích muội, nhưng tới nhà huynh rồi, muội mới phát hiện không chỉ có khởi vận tỷ tỷ xinh đẹp tuyệt trần, Ngọc Nhi, Tuyết Nhi, còn cậu nương phu nhân, mỗi người đều xinh đẹp đáng yêu. Hơn nữa làn da của các nàng thật mềm mại, thật trắng, người đã xinh đẹp lại giỏi việc nội trợ, muội thực sự cảm thấy tự ti. Muội cũng có sở trường của mình, thông minh tự lập, thân hình bốc lửa. Đừng có lúc nào cũng nghĩ rằng nhất định phải trợ giúp được cái gì cho sự nghiệp của huynh thì mới chứng tỏ được giá trị của muội. Hãy nghĩ đơn giản một chút đi, muội xem, ống nương, Ngọc Nhi, Tuyết Nhi, các nàng ấy không phải là rất vui vẻ sao? Đức Nhi ôm chặt lấy hắn, hạ giọng nói: Dương, muội ở Viễn Đông chỉ có thể yêu mình chàng, chỉ có mỗi chàng để mà nương tựa. Và Nhi thì nói đây chính là lo được lo mất vậy. Muội cứ lo bản thân mình không xứng để được chàng yêu, thế về tới kinh thành là thấy điểm nào cũng đều kém mấy vị phu nhân. Đến muội cảm thấy chàng quả thực sự lãng phí cuộc đời nếu chung sống cùng với muội. Dương Lăng vỗ trán một cái: ôi trời ơi, càng nói càng nghiêm trọng, không nên mức như vậy chứ. Muội mắc chứng tự kỷ phải không? Lãng phí cái gì chứ? Sinh mạng nên lãng phí ở chỗ người đẹp và vật tốt. Muội ở trong lòng cổ huynh là bảo bối mà người khác không thể thay thế được, sao lại cứ phải tự làm khổ mình như vậy? Đức Nhi nghe xong, đôi con ngươi như là bảo thạch phát ra tia sáng rạng rỡ, vui vẻ nói: Dương, lời huynh nói là thật chứ? Dương Lăng ôn nhu đem nàng ôm vào lồng ngực, nhẹ nhàng ngửi ngửi mái tóc của nàng nói: đương nhiên là thật, các nàng đều là bảo bối trong lòng ta. Ống nương là bến cảng của ta, mặc kệ ta xa khơi xa cỡ nào, đều phải trở về bên nàng ấy ta mới an tâm. Vận Nhi là trợ thủ của ta, cùng nàng ấy sóng vai đi thuyền ta mới yên tâm. Tuyết Nhi là một loại quà vui vẻ, nàng ấy lúc nào cũng nghĩ ra mọi biện pháp để khiến ta vui. Ngọc Nhi là một dòng suối nước nóng, 2-3 ngày không hưởng thụ một chút sự dịu dàng của nàng ấy, ta liền cảm thấy ngứa ngáy. Đức Nhi nghe xong ánh mắt trở nên mông lung, ôn nhu khẽ nói: Dương, muội ở trong lòng huynh là cái gì? Nàng đang ngồi mất, Dương Lăng cũng bị câu hỏi này làm cho rào rực. Hắn ghé sát vào một bên tai của vưu vật rực lửa này, khẽ nói: Nàng chính là một viên hợp hoàn toàn của ta. Nàng đến ngồi đây, khiến ngay cả cà chua ở trên kệ